So here's a story that kind of flew under the radar a little bit, but I think this is shocking, if I'm being honest. Just in, 24 Secret Service phones from January 6th were confiscated by criminal investigation. Now, the reason why this is surprising to me is because there have been a number of instances where it appeared clear that, there's going to be no criminal charges over January 6th. There's going to be none. But apparently there's a criminal investigation going on, and they confiscated 24 Secret Service phones, which means what, by the way? They think these guys were deeply involved. All right, so let's see what they say. The agency investigating Secret Service's response to January 6th attack on the Capitol confiscated 24 phones from agents involved in that response, according to brand new reporting from NBC News. Interest in the Secret Service communications reached a fever pitch after the bombshell January 6th hearing testimony of Cassidy Hutchinson, former top aide of Trump White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows, and fly on the wall for some jaw-dropping revelations that included an altercation between Trump and members of his protective detail. Now, by the way, let me just give you an update on that again. So she had a lot of bombshell stuff that she said, like Trump was angry and wanted to go to the Capitol, and Secret Service said, no, sir, we can't do that. And he got so mad that he reached over and grabbed the steering wheel when the Secret Service guy was sitting there. And then what happened was when Cassidy Hutchinson said this under oath, then you had some reporting from anonymous Secret Service officials who were like, we'll testify against that. That didn't happen. Well, then come to find out the person who made that claim resigned from the Secret Service so that they could no longer be compelled to testify. Which says what? That person was fucking lying and Cassidy was telling the truth. So all of her bombshell stories, and everybody was casting doubt on her from the right, but her bombshell stories were accurate. Now at the time, I thought they were accurate too. Why? Because Mark Meadows, who she was chief of staff for, he never came out and denied anything that she said. And he's always been a pro-Trump sycophant. So he could have came out and been like, what she's saying is not true, and this is misleading, and he didn't do that. Which tells me he knew it was true. He just wanted www.shh.com. According to a new and exclusive report from NBC News correspondent Julia Ainsley, a new line of evidence is available for the investigation being run by Department of Homeland Security Inspector General Joseph Kufari. Now, I will say this. We covered previously that there is a war in the deep state, and certain parts of the deep state, certain government agencies are trying to block cooperation with the January 6th committee because they are pro-Trump. I don't remember which is which. I think it might be Department of Homeland Security that's pro-Trump, and they're trying to stonewall the investigation. But we've covered this before, and this might be one of the reasons why the January 6th avenue of getting Trump is going to be the most difficult. Also because the stuff you're really talking about is very high level to prove. And I think he gave himself enough plausible deniability, he spoke out of both sides of his mouth, that you can't really get him on treason or some shit like that, right? But that's not to say the other cases don't have merit, because, I think the Georgia one is almost a slam dunk case. He's on the fucking phone saying, "Find me 11,000 votes." They did a fake electors panel in Georgia. That's definitely illegal. So that, I think, has more promise than this. But it's interesting that now the ball's moving with Secret Service agents. So even if you don't get criminal charges against Trump through the January 6th committee, maybe you take down some of these corrupt insider, deep state officials who were working with the rioters and the insurrectionists. I don't know. We'll see. Senior leadership at the Secret Service confiscated the cell phones of 24 agents involved in the agency's response to the January 6, 2021 riot at the Capitol and handed them over to the Department of Homeland Security's Inspector General, according to two sources with knowledge of the action. The agency handed over the phones shortly after a July 19th letter was sent by Inspector General Joseph Kufari's office around the time he launched a criminal probe into the Secret Service's missing text messages from January 6th, the sources said. That's the other story, which was kind of a bombshell, which is these motherfuckers were trying to hide everything they were saying on the day of. It is unclear what, if any, information the Office of Inspector General has been able to obtain from the cell phones. The revelation that Kufari's office has had access to the phones since late July or August raises new questions about the progress of his criminal investigation into the missing text messages and what, if anything, the public may be able to learn about communications between agents on January 6, 2021. Another thing to point out is that, I don't know if you guys remember this story, but Mike Pence, on the day of January 6th, when it was already clear that people were storming the Capitol, you had a Secret Service agent tell Pence, hey, get in the car, we're going to go to safety. And Mike Pence said, I'm not getting in that car. Which tells me that Mike Pence thought, Secret Service is one of the agencies that is super loyal to Trump, and he feared what was going to happen to him physically if he got in that car. kind of amazing, isn't it? I mean, that sounds like a Banana Republic type story. It happened in the United States of America. Ainsley reports that agents weren't happy about the confiscation, but the phones belong to the government, so that's just how it is. On Tuesday morning's edition of MSNBC's Morning Joe, Ainsley shared her reporting, as well as some additional color about Kufari, a Trump appointee who has been criticized for how he has run the investigation. Quote, "We actually learned as recently as last Friday that some of his own employees think that he isn't doing enough and is sometimes standing in their way to do thoughtful, independent, and thorough investigations," Ainsley said of Kufari. So, look, it is interesting, man. Is it possible they get some Secret Service agents with obstruction? And that's the other point, is like, if you can't get Trump on the most optimistic charges, I don't know, can you get him on obstructing justice, witness tampering, which there's evidence that he did, something else involving January 6th? You know, the story I always come back to, which is astonishing to me, is that Trump raised so much money for Stop the Steal, and then they like pocketed all of it. I think it was like $250 million. They said, we're going to use this to stop the rigged election. And they didn't spend it on that at all. And so that's like classic fraud. So I don't know how much this will directly get back to Trump. If anything gets back to Trump, it'll probably be a lower level charge. But now they're going after the Secret Service. Guys, we are seeing an all-out deep state war. And I mean, it's already messy. It's probably going to get messier. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop. And watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.